I got coached by one of America's best Pokemon players, and I wanted to share everything I learned from him with you. The player who coached me has earned $30,750 playing VGC and has won 2 major tournaments, one with 753 players in it and another with 541, meaning he knows what he's talking about. Let's go through this lesson together to learn how to improve at Pokemon Champions. But besides being a new player, why else would I want to get coaching? Wouldn't just watching top players play and studying the game be enough? Well, maybe, but my goal isn't just to be good. I want to go pro. One of the core reasons why I picked up Pokemon Champions is because I see the chance in it to go pro. I love Pokemon as a franchise, which is pretty clear with the, way I look. And I've played the game casually for years. I've watched great players like Wolfie and Pokey play the game, but I've never really gotten too competitive myself before, because I was playing other video games more seriously at the time. But now, with the Pokemon Company International giving more love to competitive than ever, and with the previous game I played being in a bit of a rough spot, I figured this would be the greatest time for me to jump ship. However, because I didn't play VGC back then, it means I'm starting pretty far behind most of the players in this game. And that is a bit scary because I'm doing what could be the biggest tournament for Pokemon Champions this year, the North American International Championships. I was lucky enough to get a ticket for NAIC, and I really want to make it a tournament for me to remember. Performing great at NAIC would not only make things way easier when it comes to going pro, but it would also feel amazing as well. Doing well, however, will be pretty difficult if I go in empty-handed without a proper plan. And while I can't just watch YouTubers play and go on the ladder myself, trying to do what they do, I see it more worthwhile to get guidance on what to do first. Especially because there's one thing on my mind that I really needed help with. Team building. Team building is quite literally half the battle. Showing up to a major tournament with a half-baked team is the equivalent of singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star to thousands of raving fans. Not the best idea. However, I was in a very confused position. That confusion coming from what the heck I should even use in the first place. In the last tournament I played, I brought a Follette team that used a very unique Pokemon, Salazzle, to overall get a finish of 4 wins and 3 losses. A finish that was well above what my time in the game would indicate. This also was something I was happy about, but a big problem came up. I no longer knew if the style of team would give me the best chance to go and perform how I wanted. The Grand Champions Festival was won by a team with the literal opposite style, a super offensive team, with a Follette whose only mission was to light and ruin anyone that looked at Zard funny. While it's great to know the Pokemon I chose was a tournament winning pick, the approach they took made me reconsider my own. Should I copy the style and make it my own? How worth is Salazzle over Charizard? Should I have just ran Charizard instead? Questions like this made the path forward very blurry, and YouTubers I listened to didn't make the steps ahead any clearer. At a loss, and with me not snapping out of confusion anytime soon, I wanted help from someone who could clear this up and much more. And thankfully, I knew just the coach who could do so. Jump Across the Forest is an outstanding coach that has the level of experience I trust in to guide my growth. He's someone who's played competitive Pokemon since the 3DS days over a decade ago. From that time to today, he has only gotten better, winning 2 official tournaments with hundreds of players in them. These kinds of competitions featured some of the best players in America, many of which were also tournament winners themselves. With a passion for Pokemon that stood the test of time, and with the results to back up what he says, he became a clear choice as a coach for the problems I had. But his ability to withstand and defeat some of the greatest players out there isn't the only reason I chose him. As a new player, I know very little people's names in the scene. While I am getting better at this, there are many fantastic players I still don't know. However, I knew Jump Across the Forest's name because of one of the greatest players out there, Wolf Glick. Wolf Glick featured Chuppa in one of his tournament videos, where he mentioned Chuppa was a previous Toronto regional champion. He also fought the player to a nail-biter set, coming down to the final game. This ability to challenge one of the few players I knew at the time made him a clear choice as a coach for me. And why I wanted to make this a video in the first place is I felt the lessons he taught me were so valuable that both you and me can learn from them. Well, he sounds like a great coach. So let's hop into the lesson and here, wait. There is one very important thing I did before the coaching session that will give you a lot of understanding for what it was like. Because I wanted to make this coaching session extremely valuable, I made a 2-page document covering everything I wanted to know. This document covers the skeleton of me as a player, what my goals were, what team ideas I had, and what questions I wanted answers to. I made this the day before the lesson and sent it over for him to look at. Now, it might seem odd to make an entire prep document, especially since the coach seems to be the kind of person to do that for me. So why would I? The answer is very simple. Besides wanting to make the time more valuable, I only had 1 hour with him. 60 minutes to go from a player with murky levels of clarity to one that could see everything with 20/20 vision. 3,600 seconds to cram as many questions and ideas I had into one singular session. And while we did end up going 9 minutes over time, Tubba himself appreciated the thoroughness in my prep, and as a viewer of the lesson, I'm sure you will too. That about explains the key parts of what happened before the lesson, so now here is that session in its full glory, starting with my goals. I definitely want to start with the goals since like that always like dictates so much for this kind of thing.
Yep. Yeah. So look at these goals. Full time. Being able to do full-time Pokemon is definitely really interesting. I think personally it's something that I've decided that's like probably not where I see myself going with Pokemon. That's okay too. It is it can be a really tiring game to put a lot of time into, and like I personally like to treat it as a hobby, but I think if you know that it's something that you want to make like full-time for you, get into like the process of creating content, power to you. I think being good at Pokemon is like definitely going to help you with that goal.
That's really good to know that like there is, it sounds like that choice of like someone can be a high level player and like choose to either be like, oh, okay, I want to take this all the way, or like, oh, this is more of a hobby thing for me, like in your case. That it's refreshing to know that like both routes are like viable.
Yeah, I definitely think there's like, I think I'd say that like high level VGC does have a lot of like, let's say, I think I describe it as like college students and then people who are like maybe a year or two out of college who have like some of the most time to sink into Pokemon. I do think those people have a little bit of an edge, or folks like Wolf who like, in addition to creating content, do have a lot of time to just sink towards like getting better at VGC, but they're definitely like not the only people doing really well. I know like myself and other people who just work like pretty traditional jobs and spend a lot of our lives doing that, or like other things in our career, who are still like great VGC players, even though it's like a little more of a side thing. And then, becoming the best player you can be. This that is really like the main thing that I can help with. Let's see, drive for being competitive. This is definitely going to be good for you. This is like kind of what got me into playing VGC in the first place. That I'm a very competitive person, and Pokemon is just something that I've had like a natural like talent for, a natural interest in for a long time. Maybe like natural talent isn't even the right way to put it, when it's like, nope, if I'm a fan of the series for about like 10 years before I really start playing VGC, it's not exactly natural. It's not like it came out of nowhere.
Like personality wise, it sounds like that's the thing that is really important.
Yeah, I'd say so. It's I think like having the drive to like, let's say, put in like a lot of time to practice and to do it well is good. Knowing how to like approach tournaments differently based on how well they go, like, you know, not only bouncing back from a tournament that or a round that doesn't go the way that you want it to, but also like taking pride in what's gone well and hoping to continue improving so that you can like notch more successes under your belt. I think like being a competitive person, like unless you're taking it too extreme and like getting toxic about it, is just going to be good for you. Focusing on official tournaments, this is like definitely good context to have too. I feel the same way. I think ladder like can be fun. I think I do want to try and really like climb up to champions tier like at least once is kind of the goal that I've set for myself, but overall I don't think it's necessarily as fun as playing like official tournaments. Is there any reason that you really find yourself preferring those?
Oh yeah, well, it does kind of tie back into the goal of becoming full-time. In the previous game I played, Splatoon, solo queue was like the thing. Like the best players in the world are the best solo queue players in the world, like exclusively almost. But in this game I've noticed that like, yeah, like the best players can definitely like hit the tops of the ladder, but there's like, it's like you do it as like, yeah, it's like a pride type feeling. It's less of like, okay, this is like absolutely needed to be like a truly great player.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think I'd say that it's like not needed, but I would say there's definitely a little bit of a correlation there. Like, let's say, especially if you've ever seen these like Victory Road posting, like, oh, here's like the top 5 people on top of the champions ladder. In the past like couple of weeks, it's been tons of like top level best of 3 players. It's not just like folks who solely focus on ladder. So I think I'd just urge you to remember like ladder can be some really good practice. I think especially this current format isn't like the worst in terms of getting screwed over by best of 1 tech as well. So it's like a lot of the experience that you're going to get in it would carry over to like live tournaments.
What would be the difference between a format that's like really different in best of 1 to best of 3.
A format that has like a wider range of items and potential sets for Pokemon is the main thing. In this format, like the range of possible items for Pokemon is just so low that like, I don't know, let's say like I'm not going to get caught off guard by like, let's say Aerodactyl is a Pokemon that like it's probably going to be Focus Sash, or it can be it's Mega Stone, or it can have like maybe a couple of other items are okay, but it's nothing that radical compared to like other formats where there might be top tier Pokemon like I don't know, an Incin that you're going to have to guess like Safety Goggles, Rocky Helmet, Citrus, Assault Vest. And Incin isn't even like one of the most volatile Pokemon in terms of that. I think like, let's say offensive choice items on kind of unexpected Pokemon is another big one, or unexpected Terra types. I think the current format is like actually probably like one of the healthier ones to be playing in best of 1 in terms of like, you're not going to be rewarded excessively just for trying to surprise your opponent.
That makes sense. It's like, it would be something that, from the sounds of it, like is worth like grinding out for sure. Just as long as like my goal itself of like wanting to focus on official tours sounds good, but still making sure to play like good ladder practice when I can like sounds really valuable.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think like as you get better at like as you continue to improve as a player, I think your ladder rating is going to be like at least a rough gauge of where you stand as a player. Like let's say, I don't know, to be someone that's like let's say someone that has like good odds of day 2ing an event, I'd say like, okay, I probably expect to see you like able to climb to like Master Ball 2 or Master Ball 1 or something. If you told me like, oh, I'm trying to get to day 2 and I'm stuck in Master Ball 4, that might be a bit of a problem. And I definitely don't mean this as a hard rule. Like you could be spending a lot of time focusing on things like, let's say, best of 3 showdown is also going to be excellent practice, or if you're like really grinding out tournaments all the time. But also like, I think by the time that you've done those other things, you'd probably be able to climb relatively well on ladder.
Like the potential to is like absolutely there for someone that's like a good tournament player.
Yeah.
It was incredible to hear that going pro in this game really is a viable thing. Coming from a game where being pro is incredibly difficult, it is so relieving to hear that there is a clear road to the top. That helps me feel much more confident about the practice I'm putting in, as well as the content I'm putting out. But now, let's get into the next section, creating the best schedule to go pro.
So let's look at this schedule section. Open hours over the next few months, pretty malleable. Maybe like getting back to goals, what would you say like the immediate like goal in terms of like a benchmark that you're working towards or a tournament you're playing in? Like what's the next thing on your calendar essentially?
For sure. The tournament that I've signed up for and, I'm going to like in June is NAIC. I was like, like lucky enough in a way to get the tickets and all that for it. I honestly, from a set standpoint, I'm not the most sure, since like my first tournament was Orlando Regionals, like first tournament ever was that. And I went 1-7 because like, I was there, I practiced for like 2 weeks total beforehand. And it was like fish out of water kind of thing for me. But I was mainly in it for the growth itself and trying to just immerse in that experience and really get used to what a Pokemon tournament feels like. Afterward, I did the Grand Champion Festival and I went 4-3 in that, which that felt like really good. So I guess like 4-4 again, depending on
4-4 is probably what I was going to say is like, I think that is, it definitely won't be super easy, but I also think it's pretty attainable. Like, I think especially in the scope of coaching, I hope to be able to give you the resources to kind of like set that as like, that's going to be the first goal that we aim for.
Got it. 4-4. That's my goal then.
Yeah. Let's see. Playing to studying. This is an interesting one. This is something that's going to vary a lot from player to player. Like, I'm personally someone that like my ratio of studying to playing is probably like, I'm one of the people that I think does like the most studying relative to playing, and that's not like necessarily good or bad, but it's something that I tend to approach a little bit differently. I think I'd say like, as you're getting started, it should definitely be heavier on playing than studying. Or at least like let's say when it comes to studying, what does that mean to you? Like what kinds of things are you studying?
For me, that's usually checking out one of the videos where it's like, oh, these are the new meta strats of this week. Like those kind of videos that start to like, I guess I'm like sprouted out like a ton with the explosion of the game. Like those kind of things. I also do a lot of thinking in my mind. Like, for example, I was this morning, I was thinking about Floet on hyper offense and building a team around that. And I was thinking about that for like 3 to 4 hours probably straight, with like very little like not that gaps in between. So it's like a mix of like studying, building ideas in my mind mentally, and also like analyzing in terms of like, okay, in this round I fought against Excadrill T-Tar and my Salazzle felt really weak because like I let its Sash get burned, like stuff like that basically.
Yeah, I think it sounds like you're balancing some of the right things. Like, I think there's lots of quality content. I think one thing that is especially worth reviewing is, like, let's say people like Aaron Zhang, Justin Tang. I guess they're on Wolf's Patreon, but I think that's pretty good investment as money spent on VGC goes. There's going to be people that are posting videos of themselves just like playing ladder and talking about it, or playing tournaments and talking about it. And it's really great to be able to hear like a top level player talk through their turns and hear why they're doing the things they're doing.
I'll definitely like do like listen to those kind of videos more, since I usually don't. That makes a lot of sense. That's like the most like, well, maybe not the most, but it's like one of the like more effective things to do.
Yeah, and I think like sometimes like watching Twitch streams can be good for this too, but I think at least from what I've seen, like the YouTube videos, like again, I think Aaron and Justin are kind of like the gold standard of this. It's just going to be, they're using a popular team that's like successful. They're going to play 5 or 6 games with it, and the games are going to be pretty well commentated in terms of their thoughts on the game, because they're explicitly like making it for YouTube content. I think it's just like a really great way to like learn about what goes on inside a top player's head, but also like how to pilot that team. Aaron Zhang videos are like especially good about this, because he's going to start the video by like saying the things that he's learned about it. Maybe like, Sneasler Aerodactyl is like, you can lead this 70% of the time and it's going to feel really good. When in doubt, here's like some of the strategies that you can use. So it's like, not only are you going to get to see him using the team, but you're going to get a good playstyle guide.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yep. Team building is something that's nice to get better at. I will say in VGC, I think it's very important to know when it's okay to like borrow other people's ideas, though. This is something that like I think some new players are a little bit too cautious about. At all levels of VGC, you will get rewarded for like knowing how to take strong teams that other people have already made. And then at that point, you can decide like whether you want to change anything about them. Like
just like taking a complete like raw replica code and then like putting that in and then playing it for like an hour or two.
Yeah, or even like I maybe an hour is like a good amount to set as a benchmark. But yeah, I think that kind of thing is like, let's say like if you were to try and build a team right now on your own without any help, it's probably going to end up with like quite a few holes in it. And I'd say the same thing. Like even for me, if I was to like build a team relatively quickly and then throw it at ladder, I would probably like notice a couple errors that I didn't catch in team building, or that I'm going to have to iterate on to fix. And it's going to be a very time-consuming process. If you take a team that's already out there, it is probably going to be like pretty close to being in its final form. There might be like a couple things you can do to keep evolving a team, but like, I don't know, let's say it's a team that's like top 5 on ladder or something. It's probably a team that has all its major matchups like more or less under control. It's not like you're going to take this top team and then fight like, let's say something standard like Sableye Chaladon and then get completely screwed by it.
Yeah,
the top team probably already had to beat Sableye Chaladon. It's already something the builder has like solved for.
So then it becomes less of a puzzle of like, okay, is this my gameplay? Is it the team? Should I change this? And more of like, okay, how did the builder that played this team figured out this problem?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly like what it would come down to. And you'd be able to say things like, okay, I think the team probably has the tools to do this. Do I need to be doing something different with the team? Am I making like some kind of mistake? Maybe I'm trying to think about it. Like maybe I just need to like use my Pokemon in a slightly different way. But it's kind of nice knowing that the answers are in front of you, compared to like, I don't know, sometimes if you like come up with your own team or something that's a little bit rougher, sometimes you will just fight a team and say like, oh wow, that's really a rough matchup. Not much I could have done there. That's it is good to be able to realize that, but you're not going to leave those games saying anything other than looks like I have to change my team.
That might change that part, since I in that case I probably would want to get like 1 or 2 sample teams and then just like rock that instead of trying to like do a bunch of ideas that I like try to like take and just like make it my own. It sounds like having a blend, especially for where I'm at, where like I'm like, you know, pretty new, having a mix of like maybe a couple ideas that I think are cool, but then also like, okay, this team won VR, or like this team won Terry Challenge or something like that.
Wow, I'm surprised you know what what Teru Challenge is.
Well, I saw a video of it from Marcus, and one of the quirky things about Splatoon was that this game, from the scenes of it, it's like Japan is like probably the best region, but like it's still like competitive. Like there's still regions that haven't won it that like aren't Japanese, or have won worlds that aren't Japanese players. In Splatoon, there is a challenge with like the best American teams of all time that have won tournaments and have been at the top of the game for years, right? They couldn't take a set against some of the best Japanese teams. Like not go like 1-3, like go like 0-2. So
oh wow, that's geez, I didn't know that. Yeah, I'd say in VGC it's sort of like skill is definitely like densest in Japan. I think in the past couple of years, especially, I think Japan is like in some ways even stronger than they've been, and they're also sending more of their like top players to American tournaments. Or you have things like Kinugawa's win at LAIC last year is like kind of good example of like how far they're going. But yeah, it's definitely like a gap that American or European players can bridge. But yes, you should absolutely be looking at what Japan is doing when it comes to Pokemon. In some ways, like I haven't actually studied Terra Challenge results too much in this format, but in terms of ladder, the Japanese absolutely love ladder. It is like, okay, this is like sort of just like a cultural thing about VGC that's interesting, but the Japanese players tend to hold ladder results in way higher regard than Americans and Europeans do. So consequently, they're going to be trying harder on ladder. It's also like how they qualify for events like their nationals. Like if a Japanese player wasn't able to get like I think top 500 or top 600 in the world in this the GC that happened over the weekend, their season's over. They like would have been eliminated from contention already. So there's a fire under their asses to be good at these ladder formats, and it is going to show in terms of like the way that they're approaching these.
Wow, that's so interesting. So
yeah, no, feel free to keep talking. I'm just opening up like some of these teams that you'd sent.
I think it would be worth for me then to like start like in addition to watching like Aaron Zhang and Justin Tang, to also find like Japanese streams to watch.
Yeah, I don't think too many of the Japanese players are streaming actively, but what you would do is like, let's say maybe just like follow some of their big accounts and see what they post. I'm trying to think of like where I've heard about Japanese teams exactly. And sometimes it's going to be information that trickles down to you a little bit. Like let's say where you are right now, you're not going to be the person that has an account high on ladder. It might be something like, oh, someone fought a Japanese player high on ladder and made a YouTube video about the team, or has like shared the information somehow. It might be a little bit more likely that like that's how the info gets to you.
That makes sense. It was super interesting to hear how the balance of studying the game to playing it could vary so much. Sounds like playing a lot matters when I'm starting out. The time I put into different parts of the game should change as I improve. And overall, that lets me know that there is a level of flexibility for what I put my time into. But now, let's snap back to the lesson, where we can hear some incredible insights about team building.
So you've got a lot of like different versions of the team here. Maybe like, I think these ones are more experimental, and I could talk about like what I do or don't like about them. What about these? Like, I think these ones look like they're probably a little more promising as like main, relatively standard teams. Maybe you could like tell me one of these that you want to focus on for a second.
Yes, with Follette, it's a bit funny, since like a lot of people play her because like, well, she's broken, and I'm technically also part of that. But I really like the idea of specifically Calm Minds with her. I played in the Grand Champion Festival, this like, you know, it was like the Calm Mind Draining Kiss set with Sinishta. It was like, it was really bulky and didn't have Moonblast or Light of Ruin for some reason. But I like the idea of Calm Mind Follette. But the main thing I wanted to like know, at least in terms of Follette specifically, was how Calm Mind is in the metagame compared to like a more hyper offensive Follette.
I think they're both quite good. Like they're just going to play very differently from each other. I think Calm Mind is just like very interesting because you're going to be like very, very well rewarded if you have a team that's like really setting it up well. Like let's say something like a Sinister is just going to be a really premier partner for that. Pokemon like Sneasler to ensure you get off a fake out. You might still consider having a Tailwind Setter to fix for Floette's like kind of average speed stat. I definitely think they're both good. I would not say there's an issue with focusing on either one of them.
Okay, that's really relieving to hear then, since like I've talked to like a lot of like people like in like Discords and stuff, and a lot of the advice has been like super helpful for me. It's like it's a huge reason that I've been able to like.
I was just gonna say, I think like the format is like relatively open right now, and it seems like based on the glance I had at that team and like some of the other things that you're talking about here, I think your understanding of like the some of the fundamentals of a strong team here sound very solid. Everything you're saying here like makes a lot of sense to me. I think there's probably going to be like a couple things that I'll say in terms of like the EVs or the partners, but overall this seems like a good foundation that you're working with. Yeah, so maybe just like tell me which of these teams you think you want to focus on for a second. I'll just like open it up on Showdown and talk about the sets.
Yeah, in that case, the Grand Champion Festival one would probably be the best.
And I think we could look at the D-Knight one if you want to. I do not think D-Knight is nearly as good as Aerodactyl.
Okay, that's what it is then.
Yeah, my beef with D-Knight is just that I don't know, I think Mega D-Knight is okay. You know what, I'm curious. I do want to see what the Dragonite set looks like, but it's just not at nearly the same speed tier that Floette gets to be. Yeah, not Floette, but Dragonite. I think when I think about this kind of Pokemon, I'm really like thinking about the Tailwind more than anything else it has going on. I think this is just like a very kind of average Pokemon overall. I do not think it is like so bad, but I don't think this stands out nearly as much as an Aerodactyl. Aerodactyl is also going to feel a lot better outside of Mega as well.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, you were saying that this Floette right now is EV to Live Sneasler Direclaw, yeah?
Yes, it's like it's still a roll, unfortunately, but I wanted to do like as much special attack as I could, because like at the time the set didn't have like any of the super powerful Floette moves. So it's like, okay, I wanted to hit the third bump, and then Sneasler I could still see being a huge problem, because like there's a very realistic chance that I could kick Calm Mind, and then they Direclaw me, and it's like, okay, I'm just gonna explode now. So I wanted at least something to help with that.
So one thing about when a Pokemon has like a really high stat in one category, that should often be a sign that that's not a stat that you actually need to focus on so much. And I think Floette's special attacks stat on a Calm Mind set is a great example of this. I think like the most standard Calm Mind Floette set is going to look something like, you might do Modest Nature with like maybe the first, probably not higher than the first bump, and then the rest of your EVs are just going to be in like HP and defense.
Is that
so you'll be what's up?
I'm really interested in that. Is that because like just the way it scales, especially with like a Positive Nature, is just already like so good?
Exactly. Like the Positive Nature is like, if you already have a really high stat, the Positive Nature is going to be the most efficient way to raise that stat. You're just going to get that flat 10%. But then let's think about like, I don't know, we can actually set this to be Mega Floette. How would I do that? Floette Eternal Mega. Let's just like slap that on. Yeah, we can do that. Your Floette is like, let's say, pretend this has like no EVs, and then we go up to like 220. I don't know. You've used like most of your EVs, and you have gained, was it starting out like 192? You've only gained like 14% higher in the stat, compared to like, let's say, I don't know, a Pokemon like Archaladon, who has a really low base special defense stat. Archaladon could invest like only a couple points in its special defense, and it's like going to be literally about twice as efficient as your Floette investing in its special attack stat. It's just like, because the EVs are giving you a flat number increase, the plus like 25 or plus 32 or whatever isn't going to be felt as much as when you're investing in a low stat. Like let's say this Floette's HP especially is going to feel really low for a Pokemon that has to be like pretty tanky at the end of the day to win games.
That is really eye-opening, like extremely so.
I'm just gonna open a calc. Yeah, feel free to like keep talking. I'm just gonna run some Sneasler calcs against Floette.
And I am like super new to like playing competitive, especially like VGC. But I did watch a lot of singles, like really casually, like like for a while. not like super active into the point where it's like I'd understand the scene, but it's like I would pull like a Pokemon video or something like that, like once every like couple months or something like that. And I'm really used to the idea of like 252, 252, but
yeah, I'm not an expert on like singles to really be able to speak to it. I feel like I've had singles players like talk to me about why they tend to do 252, 252 a lot more often. But in VGC, like you get to tailor your spreads a little bit more and think about like maybe it's not even right to say you get to tailor your spreads, but you have to tailor your spreads a little bit more, because it's a little more likely that your Floette is just going to have to tank a Sneasler Dire Claw. You're not going to have, like, let's say, a super ideal Sneasler counter that you can just swap into to tank that hit instead. Might be better to just like have your Floette figure out a way to live that and keep playing from there.
That makes sense.
That's not like necessarily a perfect explanation, but that is probably the way that I would put it. There's like a couple reasons why like the VGC spreads are usually going to be a little bit more complicated.
There's another Pokemon that I used at like the very start of Champions. Like I took a spread for it, but I didn't really understand it, and it was Incineroar. I saw that Incineroar, like it was like an Adamant Incineroar spread with 0 attack investment, but had Adamant. And that always confused me. I was like, why would you do that? But that makes so much more sense now. It's like, it's a matter of efficiency.
Yeah, like in this case, that person probably said like, okay, I just want my Incineroar to hit a little bit harder. But since Incineroar's base attack is like quite a lot higher than its defenses, for the EVs they're using, there's probably going to be the most efficient way to get that. Like the attack is really, or sorry, the boosted nature is just like the flat 10% is going to like benefit the stats that are higher to begin with. And they don't necessarily have to be spreads that you're actually investing in very much. Like in this case, our Floette is going to be modest even with like relatively low special attack, because I just want to hit the bump point. That is about it.
Wow.
I think with this Floette, like, I don't know, we could probably stand to drop a bit of defense and still have like kind of a nice calc against Dire Claw. Like, let's say if we go max HP and we've got 5 here, how much defense? We can even make this take like Adamant Sneasler Dire Claw pretty comfortably now.
Wow, that's 13% of Atrium Wigaroon. That's crazy.
Yeah, like 32. And yeah, we can really drop this by quite a bit and still feel okay about it. Maybe, I don't know, something like this to get like kind of a big drop on the Dire Claw damage is tempting. And then we could just dump the rest into speed. I mean, this is like kind of an arbitrary number. I'd say probably we'd consider going like 1 point higher in the speed, because it will outrun things like Modest Venusaur goes up to 132. This is, still a relatively slow Floette. Might consider making it a little bit faster, but yeah, I think this spread is probably a little bit better rounded than what you're working with, and you're not going to feel the special attack drop very much.
I do have a question about like the moves of Floette, since it's something like I've like been in my mind about for like multiple, like it feels like weeks, honestly, with like how much I've like thought about it. But I like, when I was using Floette in the Grand Champions Festival, I noticed there was like a couple, not a lot, but a couple of end games where it's like, if I just had a little bit more burst damage, that guy, their XP like explodes. So like I was thinking like, okay, how much do I need Dazzling Gleam? Because like Dazzling Gleam, like it increases the board's, like it speeds up the board state a ton with like its spread damage. But then Draining Kiss is like, I don't always need that. But the times where I do need it, it's like broken. It's like I've been so
I totally hear what you're saying. I think like either Dazzling Gleam and Moonblast are like absolutely going to be justifiable on a set like this. If you find yourself needing the burst damage more, then totally do Moonblast. Like I think with this set, what is a little bit worrying for me about it is like, let's say if you're Moonblast and you get to +1, you're going to have this Moonblast that like if you see your opponent has a Pokemon that you really want to remove, I think that Moonblast is probably going to be doing it like +1 90% or getting a knockout on a lot of things. You can probably like, let's say even an Aerodactyl Rock Slide is probably going to be the magic like amount of damage to knock things into +1 Moonblast range, and that'll feel good. However, Dazzling Gleam is like, you're probably going to need to get to like +2 +3 for this Floette to start getting knockouts. It's going to have to like chip things down a little bit more.
So could I could probably like get away with not running Dazzling Gleam because of just how...
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's sort of just a matter of preference. Like I definitely don't think either set is crazy, but it's like with Moonblast, this is like going to be a little more focused on getting the knockouts. I think in some ways it's probably like a better complement for Draining Kiss because your opponent like suddenly has to respect Floette at only +1. I think if you're Dazzling Gleam, your opponent is going to know that at +1 you're not getting knockouts yet.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with running that. I'm excited for that.
Yeah. For Garchomp, I think what I'd say about this is I would just consider maybe going like 2 speed points faster so that you're going to be faster than every Basculegion that's not a Scarf set because he goes up to 143. Basculegion is extremely, extremely, extremely important. What are the other like calcs going on with this Garchomp?
Yes, I'm gonna double check now. I have it written down, so I just gotta like okay, the EVs I wrote down at the time were enough speed to guarantee outspeed a Sandrush X-Drill and Tailwind, enough bulk to tank a Floette Dazzling Gleam and also a max Dragon Claw, and then I dumped into attack. But
okay, so in that case, attack is the stat that we can like fudge with a little bit.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think like when you're adjusting spreads, like let's say it's actually really handy that you're able to tell me what this Garchomp does right away because it means that like I can say like, okay, that's the dump stat. I want to make it faster. Great. I think taking points out of your dump stat usually isn't gonna like. I think these 2 points are better served in speed, is what I'm saying, and we haven't really lost anything by putting them there.
That makes sense. Yeah.
What about the Basculegion? I think this is one where like so if you're Scarf Basculegion, you should usually just be opting into speed ties with this and doing Jolly Max. There are absolutely going to be games that come down to like Wild West showdown of just like who has the faster Basculegion, and I think these like 6 points that you're putting into other stats like bulk or attack, almost always you should just try and be faster than the other Bask, like opt into that speed tie.
That makes a ton of sense. Originally I had that calc for surviving a Rotom Thunderbolt, which did come up like one time, but I've also came into Basculegion speed ties like 6 times. So that makes sense that I should just be like, okay, max on this guy.
Yeah, because the thing about the Rotom Thunderbolt is like I definitely don't think you're that crazy for trying to, or actually, whose Thunderbolt are you trying to live? Because Basculegion actually, like even with no bulk, you do pretty well against like timid Rotom Thunderbolt, and Rotom has to be like a Scarf timid set to outrun you.
Yeah, it was specifically max Thunderbolt, but if I survive like most Rotom's Thunderbolts like anyway, then it's like it makes sense to just like let the max Rotoms be max Rotoms.
Yeah, or just like, I don't know, if it's like a max modest Rotom and like maybe it's a Citrus set and you're in an end game, just like try and set up your last respects to kill it or something. Let's like check that calc quickly. If this is something you're worried about, we could try and do something to improve it. Like let's see if where our filler points go impact this very much. Like if you're comfortable dropping your attack, you could improve this calc by a little bit, but I think like best advice is, yeah, I would just use the 2 in special defense and say like you're only knocking me out half the time. Ideally, this just isn't a move you're getting hit by anyway. I would way rather just have my Basculegion try to get a knockout on the Rotom instead.
Thumbs up. I'm totally good with that.
In terms of like Pokemon that Basculegion really wants to fight or is like likely to fight in endgames, one other thing that's come up is like, let's say King Gambit. People are starting to EV their Basculegion more often to survive King Gambit Sucker Punch. For that though, you have to drop your attack by quite a lot, so that's like a little bit more contentious. On to Aerodactyl. So I think this is another Pokemon where like if you're dropping speed on your Aerodactyl, you're opting out of speed ties with other Aerodactyl, and that is like very, very, very dicey because it's like not only are you moving second and taking damage first, the Aerodactyl is just always going to have a flinch chance on you if it wants it. So I think you would need to have like an extremely compelling reason for these defense points for them to be better in defense and set speed.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Aerodactyl, like when I was playing it, felt like extremely like bad in a way. I think for sure my playing could have been better with it, but the EVs and Aerodactyl mirrors make a lot of sense. I set it originally to that to help with Sneasel or Sneasel or Close Combat, but with like...
let's check that roll actually. So if you want to make that better, I mean, I think another thing is like if you're dropping attack on Aerodactyl, your dual wing beat is like going to be faultier against Sneasler that have like, even with this, like let's say is this enough attack to like still KO like Frail Sash Sneasler all the time?
It's just not. My original idea was like, okay, I can Mega Evolve to help with like stuff like that, but I can't do that all the time, especially with the Calm Mind Follett.
I think what you're saying about trying to take like Sneasler close combat more often is like definitely not too crazy. Like that's reasonable to me. I would just say like we can consider taking that out of attack. Oh, actually, yeah, this is doing well against Glass Sneasler, even if we drop this a little bit. And then if the Sneasler wants to EV for this, like they already would have been EV'd for it, and it might not matter that much if you're actually like max attack on it. This is another one of those things where like, as opposed to like trying to take this close combat from Sneasler, it's like, okay, but they have to like do things like activate their white herb or like stay in front of you to actually connect one of these. Let's I think this is a reasonable thing to try and like make the calc against a little bit better, though. Maybe we could do something like this. I'm sure there's going to be some Sneasler that are stronger than this, but maybe we can just like take this okay roll against Jolly Sneasler instead.
This is something I've been like extremely curious about, and I'm
2 HP as well.
I'm honestly even more curious about it now, learning about like the whole, letting your biggest stat, like being willing to let go of some of the EVs on that because like it already gets boosted somewhat by the nature. How, like, when is it better or worse to leave something up to a roll when it comes to like a defensive or offensive calc?
It's going to be a little bit hard to say. Like, I think my rule of thumb is that you really shouldn't be afraid of like 6 and 12.5 really aren't such bad numbers, especially for like Pokemon is a game of like odds, and you can't be too afraid of the odds. If you try and like make your Pokemon do the things they want to do 100% of the time, they are really going to fall short in some other areas. Or it's like, let's say with this Sneasler, like I want to improve our chance of taking this particular close combat. There's also just going to be Sneasler that are stronger or weaker than this, where this will either be better or worse. So it's like I could set this to be 100% and my opponent could have a different Sneasler spread and it suddenly won't even matter very much.
Like in that context, I basically wasted EVs, whereas if I took the risk where it's like, okay, they have this 87% chance, but not all of them are going to be max. Some of them are going to be like the really fat Sneasler build. Like that is a lot more, like the 12.5 turns a lot more to like 1 or maybe 3% in that way.
Yeah, and again, this is like such a particular Sneasler set. Like I don't know how many Sneasler are doing like a Jolly Glass set like this anyway. This is also a set that you will just like be threatening a dual wing beat knockout on before they can even do anything. So there's sort of just like enough things in the equation, and I care about Aerodactyl's attack stat that I just don't want to fudge with it too much. Again, this is definitely something that it's like very open to interpretation. It's one of the fun things about like Pokemon and EV spreads in general is like if you were like getting creative about it or really experienced with the team, you can approach it in like any number of ways. You like, let's say you're super duper experienced with this team, you could tell me I made my Aerodactyl like really fat because I just care about this calc more than Aerodactyl's attack stat. I'd way rather like live that close combat more reliably.
It's like the values of what a Pokemon does on a team and like how that changes with experience sounds like a really like the fundamental thing for this.
Yeah, I think some of the things that I'm saying to you about like speed stats are like probably a little bit more fundamental. I think that would be like, let's say doing things like the Basculegion missing a few points of speed or the Aerodactyl missing a few points of speed. Those are a little bit more fundamental, and like I feel more confident saying what I'm saying. It's basically like you want to opt into speed ties than out of speed ties. If you're going to use a Pokemon that's like has a volatile mirror like Aerodactyl or Basculegion, as in like they're both Pokemon that hit themselves for super effective, or they just mess with themselves a lot, and these are extremely common Pokemon, so you're going to be fighting a lot of mirrors. If you're opting out that mirror and going slow, you better have a really good reason for it. And
like you survive one of their attacks or something like that.
Yeah, or it's like maybe, I don't know, like Aerodactyl is, like these Pokemon maybe aren't good examples for this because I don't know, they just do a little bit too much to themselves, or the speed tie is too important, or they're Pokemon that are like kind of meant to be fast. Maybe with like a slower Pokemon, like let's say Garchomp is probably a better example of this. You wouldn't do like a Garchomp that's like just below Jolly max speed, but you can absolutely do a Garchomp that's like quite a bit slower than this, but he has a lot of other things going on. Like your Garchomp has some really clear bulk calcs that you wouldn't get if you were just a glass Garchomp.
Also, could we just, since I mess with this Garchomp like a lot, I just want to like double check it, like if it does survive like a max Dragon Call or not. since I'm
like calculating that right now.
yeah.
I want to say so, but I'm not certain. So we're 2 and 3. Also, I just want to check in where we're at on time. I have a feeling like we're probably not going to have time to go over like every single thing in your doc. If you want to like move towards like we could talk through a game on Showdown, I could like quickly wrap up what we're talking about on the team and then screen share. You could screen share a set and we can talk through it.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah, it looks like you have the calc against Dragonclaw.
Okay, nice. I guess like in that case, like just like not all of the team building contents, but I could choose like 2 or 3 of them, like based on like how the time goes, and then
Sure. One other thing is like Sinistcha is another Pokemon where like with Sinistcha, I think almost always the first thing your EV spread should be doing is focusing on your HP stat. It is almost always going to be more efficient for Sinistcha. Like its base HP is so low and its like defense especially is so high. You're just going to be better served focusing on your HP stat because it helps both of your defenses at the same time. Whereas like when you invest in one of your defenses, that's only helping you half the time when you're hit by a certain type of move.
This is that I'm like super interested in this because like this is something I've like been super like maybe not confused, but like super, I guess confused is like a good word. Since like sometimes I see a calc where it's like, okay, I can use just like a random example, like 26 defense EVs to survive it. But it's like, okay, like should I like do HP and then defense? Should I like have max HP? Should I like do just like half and half? Like it's been something that I would love more clarity on.
Yeah, and let me know if you have like any questions on the things that I'm describing. I think like one of the best ways to like kind of summarize this is investing in your low stats tends to be like one of the best uses of your time, and also like trying to make sure that if your HP stat is like less than the sum of your defense stats, that's usually a sign that you should be focusing on HP. So like let's say, I don't know, Aerodactyl is a Pokemon where like the defenses are I don't know, summed up, I guess they're higher than HP, but they're so low that like you can achieve a really specific thing by focusing on defense. So this makes sense. In Sinistcha's case, I think just trying to do something like generally well-rounded and focusing on that HP stat tends to be really important. Also, like Sinistcha really doesn't need to invest in special attacker speed at all.
That makes sense. Like the lower the status and HP specifically, like if I see like 143, 130, that's like 273, so that's like way more than HP. It's like, okay, that HP needs to go up first before anything.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's why with your previous spread, I think like in like net bulk, this is almost strictly going to be an upgrade from what you were previously looking at.
Wow.
You know, this was just like a very boring Sinistcha too. It's just max HP, hit a jump point in defense, dump in special defense. I've been like very happy with this kind of Sinistcha so far. And you could totally say like, oh, I really want my Sinistcha to like specialize in one of the defenses, but it's one of those things that you'd probably have like a particular calc or know something about its like play style to try and justify that. Like let's say, I think the Sinistcha has good rolls against like, I forget if it's Timid or Modest Pelipper Hurricane. Maybe you'd say you always want to do that, so then you would go like Calm Nature instead.
That makes sense. The whole idea with I guess like the 2 ideas with the Sinistcha calc was to always survive a max Frost Blast Blizzard, which I'm not even sure that Mon runs max. I just saw that in the calc and I was like scared of it. But like honestly, yeah, that like other than that, it was like something with Incineroar. Like I fought like I think 1 Incineroar in the whole entire Grand Champions Festival, so it's like I'm not as worried about that anymore.
Slow it is like against like let's say I think your net special defense stat is going to be very similar to what it was before. Like we've dropped it a little bit, like I don't know, maybe by as much as 10%, but then our HP has also gone up by about that much because the HP stat was so low and like the gains in it are very noticeable. So I would just say that's a calc you can check. And then against Incin, I think most of them probably aren't running enough attack that they can one-shot this guy. But again, that's one of those things that you could totally like look at that calc, decide you're worried about, and then say that you're going to drop a little bit of special defense to focus on it. Like defense stats are kind of flexible, just the HP that you're probably going to max out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So tell me about like Salazzle. What it's like, obviously the rest of the team is like super duper standard. These are like very established Pokemon. Salazzle's a little bit more like out there though. I haven't seen it quite as much. What's it bringing to the team?
Yes, and this is the Pokemon that I would say I'm the most like proud of, not discovering obviously, right? Since like I learned especially like in Scarlet Violet, like people used this mon before, like in Sun and Moon, some restricted formats, like a couple of people like did well with it. But with this team, I was really anxious of the time against both bulky steel types and Milotic. Because like, yeah, Follette could like get Calm Minds and then like hit the steel types that usually don't have that good special defense for like really good damage. But if it was like something like a Archaludon and Archaludon like tanks an attack and now it's like, okay, well now 3 of my attackers just do like barely any damage into it. That's like my main worry. I had Charizard Y on the team before, and funnily enough, like I was going to run a version of this like with Follette, Charizard Y, Garchomp, Bascu Legion, Aerodite, and that's literally just like the team that won. But I chose to not like go with that team because like my idea was like almost like an inverse of Raghav's, where Raghav was like, oh, this is a Charizard Y team with Follette. This is like, oh, this was a Follette team and I want a Charizard Y for a certain matchup. But like I didn't want to like not mega my Follette, since like having Calm Mind and not megaing my Follette, especially when like she was already so slow, like just like it didn't seem right. So it's like, okay, how do I cover bulky steel types and bulky mons in general that like are bad for Follette typing wise? And I was like, okay, what if I swap my Incineroar for a mon that could do that? And then like boom, Salazzle was like just it arrived at that point. Like it was crazy, but it like she felt like ridiculously good in the tournament. I was like so surprised.
Okay. What's the so the speed, I think this is good. I think saying that you want to outrun Adamant Sneasler with a Pokemon like this makes sense. This is like a very relevant kind of speed number. I think one other kind of funny thing you could do with it is do actually a Modest Nature just for more damage and then run absolute max speed. Actually, no, that would be speed tying Jolly Garchomp, which doesn't feel too good. So I think Timid is probably smarter, but that's something you could do if you really want to crank the damage of Salazzle to the max. But I don't think it's as smart as what you're doing. What about the special defense though?
Yes, the special defense was for, I was like, wait a second, I'm just double checking this here. Can't forget to kowtow. Yes. So I was like extremely anxious, and honestly I still am, about Mega Gengar teams, to the point where it's like I've like been like so up in arms about that matchup, and especially like the disable Encore versions that like MDB made, where it's like I had like it took me to the point where it's like I wanted to just build a completely different kind of Follette, which is like that was like where that whole HO idea came from. But this is specifically so like I can never get 2 KO'd by an opposing Gengar like clicking Sludge Bomb into me or clicking Shadow Ball into me.
Wait, what do you mean? This Salazzle's totally gonna get 2-shot by Shadow Ball.
Oh wait. Oh my bad. Yeah, you're right. No, you're right. I'm looking at the notes and I was like, it says Sludge Bomb on there. I was like, okay, apparently it's Sludge Bomb, but I was like, the calc itself is Sludge Bomb from what I remember. But yeah, there's no reason a Gengar wouldn't just do Sludge Bomb into like Shadow Ball and then I just like explode.
Or yeah, they probably wouldn't even spend time Sludge Bombing you. They're just going to hit you with a Shadow Ball first to get you really low. I hear what you're saying. So this Salazzle is going to be good against like maybe mono Sludge Bomb Gengar. Set you to be the lizard, and then I don't know if we make the Gengar like, let's say, I mean, something like 10 Modest is a lot stronger. Yeah, I see what you're going for here. Ultimately, like, I guess the speed tier isn't too important. Like, you're not exactly losing out on that much by not having it a little bit faster. Again, these special defense points become essentially like useless to the world once if it's a Shadow Ball Gengar, or if it's just like most other Pokemon in the format. I do not think these come up very much. When you're a Focus Sash Pokemon, this is kind of like where that single EV spread theory might come into play. Focus Sash Pokemon have to have a really good reason not to just be max, because those, like, a lot of the time you're just going down in 2 hits, so the bulk EVs don't like really count for as much a lot of the time. I think in this Salazzle's case, I definitely see what you're going for. I don't think these the speed stat would be too different, but there's probably like a couple niche Pokemon that like suddenly outrun your Salazzle when before they wouldn't have.
That makes a lot of sense. I noticed like I barely ever outspeed Scarf Pokemon with this as well. Not that like I think this is a speed tier where it's like Scarf Mons will like most Scarf Mons will probably just like outspeed me even if I'm max, but it's like I notice a weird amount of stuff outspeed me, even though my speed tier is like really high.
Yeah, I'd have to open like the I think I have it bookmarked somewhere, just like the speed tiers for the format, kind of to remind myself like what exactly is between like, let's say, this Salazzle and Max Timid Salazzle. Like, I don't know. I don't think the spread needs to change urgently, but I would say look at the speed tiers and make sure you're not giving up on anything that's that important to you. There's also like maybe the most relevant thing is there might be someone who's running a Jolly but not max speed Sneasler, where it's like that is actually like something that if you were just like max speed on this, you're gonna kind of like maximize the amount of Sneaslers that you can actually outrun.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think my main beef with Salazzle is to use this Pokemon, you're not using Sneasler, and I think this Pokemon is like discount Sneasler, honestly. I don't think this has enough advantages over just like a very, very standard, like could be White Herb Sneasler, could be Focus Sash Sneasler, but it's still going to be a Sneasler. I think in most ways that is something of a better Pokemon than a Salazzle.
That makes a lot of sense. And I discovered something with Sneasler that makes it so it's like I would be like honestly pretty happy with swapping out this Pokemon, where it's like the only real difference between this and like Sneasler is the Will-O-Wisp, because like Sneasler could do like fake out taunt, stab move, and then the fourth is like, well, honestly just close combat at that point, but like
yeah, you would just do dual stabs. Like Sneasler almost always like you're doing dual stabs, and then the other two moves are more flexible. I think on this team you probably wouldn't be dropping fake out. Then the last move is like it could be a couple of different things, but probably protect or taunt.
I did have an idea with the HO team, since like that team had Sneasler on it, but like coaching on Sneasler to like of course buff the physical attackers, but to also buff Floette's defense.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of interesting. Like, I think giving Floette the boost can be good at times, but you have to remember coaching really feels at its best when it's kind of like actually a +1/+1 and a Pokemon cares about both of them. When you're just using this to give a defense boost, it's going to be a little more situational. I definitely think like Floette is such a centerpiece that sometimes like having your partner give up its turn to give Floette a defense boost, there's definitely going to be moments where it comes into play. I'm just a little like off-put that it probably wouldn't be helping anyone else quite as much. I guess Scale Shot Garchomp is actually kind of funny funny counterpoint. I think this is a pretty good coaching recipient.
How would Scale Shot be on the Citrus Berry Chomp?
It's probably worth considering. I think like this team is, you're not trying to set up your Garchomp as a main option though. You only have one EQ immunity, and EQ is really Garchomp's bread and butter. You want to be able to spam EQ with the guy. So I think on this team I'd say probably like don't bother with it. It's something worth considering, but it's one of those things that I would say like I really want you to understand your Garchomp's role like very well before you think about doing that, instead of just Dragon Claw, which is like you have to have a good reason to deviate from like some of the standard Pokemon in the format. Sneasler and Salazzle is exactly like that. Like I completely agree with Will-O-Wisp. Like this is a very cool move, and that's the reason why you'd be using this over Sneasler. Sneasler just has so many other upsides that I think it's very tough to justify Salazzle though.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there's like barely any like bulky steel teams that are like popular nowadays as well.
Well, Sneasler's also just like happy to hit all those Pokemon with close combat. Like some of them are going to be Choppleberry, but like let's say some of the teams that are like going to have the scariest steel types are like an Archaludon under Rain. Even if that's Chopple, it's probably doing about as much as something like Salazzle's Overheat would. The fact that you're giving it a defense boost probably doesn't matter as much when I think usually if you see an Arch team, you're going to have to be using Floette in that matchup because your Aerodactyl is going to struggle against it so much. So it's like the stamina interaction with Sneasler doesn't even matter as much. Or like, let's say in this format, you have to be careful about like making teams that are too physical heavy because you'll end up with a bad Mega Scovillain matchup. Again, you're a Floette team, so I think you can like kind of afford to lean more on physical attackers.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm like really happy with like using either Pokemon, since like I didn't really like Salazzle until I started using it anyway, so it's like I don't really mind swapping it around for like
if you're having like fun with Salazzle, definitely like you could stick with it. I would just say like urge you to consider Sneasler as well. One other fun thing about Sneasler is just like the EV spread on is super customizable. You could do like let's say you could choose to make this like a Focus Sash Sneasler and then just revert to 252, and then your Sneasler is a White Herb set, or your Sneasler could just be like Focus Sash, choose out of Enter Jolly, just max out your stats. Sneasler is like very, very customizable.
Okay, one last question about the like Sneasler, and then I don't know if we have time, but I would Like if we could
You know,
just look at like just like two or three of like the team concepts, and like that would be it.
Sure. What did you want to say about Sneasler?
I was super curious on, like, Raghav talked about dropping dual wing beat on Aerodactyl. I was extremely curious on what if I did that while having acrobatics and no protect on Sneasler.
Oh, so one thing I'll say about Aerodactyl is I think if you're using Mega, you should probably have dual wing beat. I think this move has like really good synergy with the Mega because it's actually like how you're using Tough Claws. I think without it, the Mega just like doesn't seem as appealing. Also, like, I don't know, this is just like really a move that's doing meaningful things for Aerodactyl's coverage in conjunction with Tough Claws. So if you don't want to run dual wing beat, I'd say consider if you even want to be a Mega Aerodactyl at that point. I think Acro, like, you mean Acro White Herb Sneasler and not like Acro no item, right?
Yeah, like CC one turn and then the next have like the acro pressure.
So the main like Pokemon that you're going to hope to target with that is enemy Sneasler. I think most other Pokemon that you'd consider hitting with Acro, not nearly as appealing as smacking around the enemy Sneasler. I also think that this is something that's going to be a lot more appealing in best of one play than best of three. In best of three, your opponent is like going to know this and they'll be looking to play around it. I definitely think that's interesting. The fact that you're going to have this very weak acrobatics, though, until your item goes off, I think that's kind of annoying. Like, you're going to have to, like, I don't know, let's say if you're using Sneasler, a lot of the time you're going to be using, like, Fake Out the first turn. So before you have strong acrobatics, it might be 2 turns of, like, Fake Out, close combat, and then finally you get rid of your item and you have strong acrobatics. It's not, like, out of the question. The Fake Out and the close combat are pretty active turns. Like, those are moves Sneasler wants to be clicking anyway. But it is, like, kind of a lot of setup.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
I'd say it's something that you would use if you really want your Sneasler to hunt down enemy Sneasler. I think if you're a Floette team, that I can totally see the argument for that.
So it's like it's not off the table, but there's some very real things I would need to consider that, like, okay, how much would I even be in a game state where it's like the Sneasler hasn't already swapped out or died?
Yep. It's one of those things that I think is worth testing. Like, that is really not such a crazy idea at all.
This is a phenomenal breakdown on how I could use each of my Pokemon to their fullest potential. And it was very intriguing to learn how, while I had a lot of understandable ideas, there were new patterns and new strategies I could use to get the most out of my Mons. In addition to those tactics, I learned how important it is to keep spreads simple sometimes, in the case of Aerodactyl and Bastion Legion, for example. And speaking of great Pokemon in general, learning where Sneasler could be more valuable than Salazzle was very intriguing. Both the Lanky Lizard and the Wonderful Weasel look like they have their powerful places on this kind of team. Now for Chelpa and me to talk about a bunch of team ideas I came up with, and for him to share a ton of wisdom that you'll benefit from too.
Let's quickly talk about some of these other teams you have.
Most of these are just like little concepts like this, so it's like I kind of want to know like how the concepts.
What has you so interested in Stomping Tantrum Garchomp with it?
Oh yeah, the idea was like, okay, I can Mega Evolve with Fable, and then turn 1 I could either like Follow Me or EQ or Helping Hand EQ, and then the next turn it's like I can just like cycle that and Stomping Tantrum, since I'm pretty sure. So Stomping Tantrum is only going to get the under pretty specific conditions. It's you either have to like flinch or sleep, which are like flinch, sleep. There might be a couple other ways, but those are the common ones. Your move essentially has to be completely wasted, and it can't be completely wasted by protect. Like if you EQ everything else on the field protect. Yeah, so this would have to, like, let's say if your opponent did maybe double protect and you EQ'd yourself, maybe that would activate it. It's essentially like the conditions are a lot more specific than what you think they are. Okay, I'm glad that you let me know, because I actually ran a whole entire team around this idea before. That makes sense now.
No, I think without this, like, Garchomp would be running Stomping Tantrum way more often because it would work with like Aerodactyl and Charizard and all these other great Pokemon. I don't love Mega Clefable. I think it's an interesting Pokemon for sure, but I think it's like typing kind of lets it down. This, I'm not sure I feel like too strongly about this. I think if you're like putting all these resources into a Pokemon, there might be better Pokemon for it than Chandelure. Again, it's not like out of the question. I think it does have like kind of funny speed tiers in relation to Alchemy. You have King Gambit to cover for Incin. Like, I definitely don't totally hate this. But again, it's a lot of resources, and you have to ask yourself, is Chandelure the Pokemon worth putting those resources into?
Like, how good is Chandelure like into the field? Like, if that's like enough to have a Sableye and an Alchemy.
Yep. I think with like sort of like an idea that all apply to like a lot of these more niche strategies is like, how many hoops do I have to jump through and how good is the payoff? I think in this case, like this is just going to feel like kind of a lot of hoops to jump through before your Chandelure is like really set up and really feeling nasty on the field. And even then, I think the payoff is just kind of okay. Like if you want to have a really strong fire type attacker,
Torkoal.
Also just use something like a Charizard Y, or Torkoal under Trick Room is very automatic.
That makes sense.
This is also like 4 Pokemon for like what's kind of a Trick Room team without a redirector, so that's also something that you'd probably have to think about adding right away. It's like kind of a lot of resources we're chucking at the Chandelure, and I don't know if it uses them the absolute best. This seems okay. I think like setting Rain manually, like Dragonite isn't really a strong enough abuser to want to set Rain manually for. I would like, you'd have manual Rain if you were like, let's say a Rain team to begin with, and you had things like Archaludon especially is just like a completely different Pokemon in and out of the Rain. I think for Dragonite, you'd probably rather just have like Politoed or Pelipper setting the Rain for you, and even then, you will probably be using Dragonite alongside something else like an Archaludon or a Swift Swim Basque.
So like it wouldn't be a MOM where it's like I build my team around Mega Dragonite Rain. It would be like I add this Pokemon later on.
And Archaludon. Yeah.
Oh.
Like the payoff of Hurricane on this guy just like isn't exactly high enough. It's okay, but like the cost of spending a turn doing like Rain Dance and then one Hurricane with Mega Dragonite, just like that is something that's going to be tough to do against top tier teams. Or like if you, even if it comes out, it won't be that special. This is Delphox with Earthquake Pokemon is very good. Like I wouldn't say that you need to be both of them, but Delphox with Earthquake Pokemon is like absolutely just a strong strategy. It's proven. Lots of people have done well with it. I think most good Delphox teams probably do have Garchomp specifically on them. Yep, seems okay. I think Samurott is like kind of a little bit underrated. Definitely think this mon has like some potential to succeed.
Nice.
Tink and Como. I feel like I've seen these two. Like I definitely think this is pretty interesting as well. Como is also going to work really well with like dedicated support Pokemon like Sinistcha and Mega Scovillain are both good with it. But I think Tink is definitely a partner that you'd consider.
Oh, did you say Dead Hate?
Oh, what did I say?
Never mind.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what I said. But yeah, Hate for Fairies is good. Yeah, kind of same thing that I was talking about with other things. Like, another way to look at this is Rain Dance is just like you are spending your turn on a support move. If you're a Sneasler, that is a turn that you're not clicking Close Combat or Dire Claw. If you're a Mega Pokemon, that's not a move that you're like really doing something like super unique or special with your Mega. A lot of the time, like this is a fast and frail Mega. I think you should be using it as like an attacker. Maybe the support move should be something like an after you can be super impactful to change your Pokemon speed tier for a turn. If you want to have a Pokemon using Rain Dance, probably better for it to like be a dedicated support Pokemon like Sableye a lot of the time. Or if you're going to use Rain Dance on something like Lopunny, it would be like more of a tech move than a build around move. It would be like, oh, I'm using this to screw over Charizard Y, not to enable these Pokemon.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like having having a different way to set Rain and then spamming like after you Electroshock with Archaludon.
Okay, my voice is failing me, so I will have to sign off soon. I hope this has been useful for you. I'm sorry we didn't get to go over like we made it up to the gameplay section. I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate this.
Your growth is already in a pretty good place. Like I think I can tell from the way that you're talking about the game. Like and I also appreciate that you're like very receptive to the things that I'm saying. I would just urge you to like keep continue playing games and like question yourself about what's going on. Are you using your turns effectively? Are you trying to I guess like getting into things like prediction is like probably best saved for another call. That would be hard to get into now. But yeah, just continue practicing and like watching some of the content that we talked about.
100%. I'll keep on it. And I'll make sure to have fun as well. Thank you so much for this call. This was an outstandingly helpful lesson that laid the groundwork for a clear path up the mountain. I took Chubba's ideas when it came to the team and team building and spent hours across the next few days just crafting and finding new teams. I settled on 4 of them: the updated Follette team with Sneasler, the Tinkaton Como team that Chubba recommended, and 2 rental teams that are made by very skilled players. I spent the next couple weeks playing best of 3 matches on the Pokemon Showdown ladder, a place for practice that I really recommended. I also took a couple hours across the week to watch Aaron Cyberchong Zhang as well as Justin Tang play the game. This studying and this practice has really created a more solid foundation for how I play the game and navigate the turns. Plus, a lot of the murk I had earlier when it came to playing has been transmuted into a shining path forward. It is important to note that I haven't had any kind of breakout performances yet since the 2 weeks of doing a session, but just as important, I have not given up and I will still keep going. I figured it's more of a matter of complexity. There are still matchups and turns I need to understand with greater detail. There's still strategies that I can plan out further with the team, and there are still spreads and moves that I can improve upon and update based around the trends in the metagame. However, what this hour with Chubb across the forest has provided is the signal that'll let me cut through all the other noise. I hope you all got to learn a lot from this coaching session. We covered what the best schedule to the top is like, who Chubb across the forest is, what my practice regimen has been like since the coaching session, and lots upon lots of team building tips. Pokemon is a game where more and more people are hungry to improve and understand it. If you want to see that manifest in the greatest tournament of all time, as well as what my run was like in said bracket, check out the video link here.